If you are definitely more interested or you think you are better or particularly poor at engineering, then I would let that guide your judgment rather than what would be the best in order to do a startup. But if you're truthfully trying to decide between the two, I personally, and of course my view is biased, I would tend towards engineering only because a lot of friends of mine also are trying to do startups and they weren't engineers and they are not as able to get quite as far because they're not able to prototype it without bringing in someone. And so if you really are choosing between the two areas, the benefit to engineering is that you can prototype your own ideas and quickly discard, and as I think Tina likes to say, fail very rapidly, and try it out and decide, okay, this is terrible, no one's ever going to use that, before you start bringing in other people and making it a much bigger deal. So I'd say that's one thing to consider.
So a couple thoughts. One is you don't have to choose. I actually studied both CS and econ as an undergrad here, and then I ended up co-terming in CS. And I really enjoyed the perspective that provided me. After Stanford and after working at Google, I actually went to Oxford and got another master's degree in technology policy. I think that helped me too because it helped me be less of a geek and think more like normal people, which is who we're selling to right now, and try to explain really technical terms and really new technologies in a way that someone like my mother could understand. And I think that for a lot of startups, I mean, it depends on who your audience is or who you're selling to, that can be tremendously valuable. But what I will say is, I agree with Jeff. A little secret when you're starting a company is that it's extraordinarily difficult to hire engineers because they're in extremely high demand. So if you're an engineer yourself, then you can just hire yourself and start working on things right away, and nothing is holding you back.
And a quick interjection that one of my mentors during the Mayfield program told me that an engineering degree is a great way to call BS. And so it's really hard. It's hard to hire engineers regardless. It's doubly hard to hire engineers if you're not an engineer because you have no way of deciding if they're any good or not. Right? You can do reference checks, but it's really hard to ask those questions. So, do I think you have an advantage with an engineering degree? Yes. But can you add a lot of value and do interesting stuff with I shouldn't use the word just here, with an economics degree? I apologize. With an economics degree? Of course, right? And so I always like to give the example of Clara, who has 2 computer science degrees and still does almost entirely non-technical work for a company and has brought in all of our revenue so far, the original idea, and easily half of the value that we've created as a company, right? And so now it's really nice to have somebody technical to bounce ideas off of when I want to talk about it, or when we're pitching the company and saying we have 2 technical co-founders. But there's a whole bunch of value to be added outside of the technology. It's just I think you do need engineers on the core team, or it's really hard to bring on more engineers. But how many of you have gotten the email from a business school student saying, I have this great idea, I just need to hire engineers? And there's a million of them, and they're great, and they probably do have really great ideas. It's just really hard to, like Claire said, hire those engineers.
One important thing, though, to keep in mind is if you're an entirely engineering team from the get-go, you need someone to specialize in not engineering stuff. Otherwise, you will build products and more products and more products and maybe try them by a few customers, but you do not have the opportunity to do a real customer-driven development cycle. You do not have the opportunity to focus on sales and support and all of the other aspects. So one of the things we did reasonably early on, probably not early on enough, was take me out of engineering and make me totally on the business side. So if you have a team of engineers, make sure that you have at least someone who can come off and start to take care of the business aspects and really getting things done.